guys! Today's video is going to be on something that I've actually talked about in the past on multiple occasions, but it still seems to be my most asked question, and so I'm just going to make a whole video dedicated to this so that maybe people will ask it less, or it'll just be easier to link it back to people. So, how to color line art. My color line art seems to get a good amount of attention, which is really great because that's why I do it, but some people are confused as to how to do this. So right here you can see this is the colored layer and then the line art layer. There are two different layers. Make sure they're on two different layers. You can't really do it if they're on one layer. I mean, you can, but you'd have to go over the whole thing. It'd be too much work. So make sure they're on separate layers. As you can see, the line art right now is just black because that's what most people end up starting with anyways. It's easier to draw in black and it's easier to kind of like differentiate or whatever that word is from the shapes. So it's all black right now, but we're going to color it. So there's two different ways to going to this. And both of these ways are talked about in my layers video. So if you want to know more about layers, you can get into that. But the first way is to protect alpha. You see, go onto the line art layer and press protect alpha. When you click Protect Alpha, that means that no matter where you draw, it's not going to show up unless you're drawing on whatever is on that layer. So you see how on this layer it's only line art. If I draw out here, nothing. But if I was to go across like this, see? Because it's on Protect Alpha, yay! Okay, so I don't use this very often because it's on the same layer, and if you make a mistake, you would end up having to erase the whole thing. Let's say I wanted, I wanted only the line art for his skin to be this red color. Let me see, put this on. Yeah, so let's say I wanted the skin to be this color. So I'm coloring his skin, and then you see that I'm accidentally coloring in the line art for his hair this color too. And I don't want his hair to be red, or the line art to be red. And so if I was to erase it, everything would erase because it's on that layer, see? So if you make a mistake, you would just have to go back in black or whatever color you have it set onto and go back over it. It's not that big of a deal right now because there's only two colors, but let's say you're really deep into this. You have everything colored in, so let's go with this purple for whatever reason. It looks fine, it's fine. I'm coloring this purple and then I'm going to go back. I'm going to use this pink instead. And then you have like a different red. You know, you have all these colors mixed and matched, and then you end up making mistakes, and the line art is really thin, so you have to be careful when selecting your colors, and it's just, I don't know, to me it's more work. And also, you know, if you end up wanting to change a color, you're gonna have to go back and do it all over again. So this is too bright, so I want to go back and do it with a darker color. It's way easier to use a different layer on clipping mode. So let me put this back to black. So another way to color in your line art is by going to the layer above it and press clipping. I'm pretty sure this is also available on Paint Tool Sci. Photoshop probably has something similar to it. I don't know if it's called clipping. Most art programs that have layers available will have these kinds of options. They might be named differently, but they should have them. Clipping just means that whatever you draw on the clipping layer is only going to show up on the layer underneath it. So it's pretty much the same thing. See, if I color out here, nothing shows up because there is nothing there on the line art layer underneath it. But again, if I go across, it's the same exact thing. The difference is that it's in a whole different layer. So if you do make a mistake, you can just go and use the eraser, and it's not going to affect the layer underneath it because it's a whole different layer. So if you make mistakes, it's easier to erase, or if you use a color and you wanted to change it. So let me do this. I'm going to use this really, really bright pink color on everything on his face right here. Let me put the colors back on. Notice how even though it looked good in the line art layer, it looks really not very good with all the colors. Let's say I wanted to make it darker. I wouldn't actually have to go up here and then redo all of it and then end up making more mistakes. All I would have to do is press Command U so that the hue and saturation shows up, and then I can change it there. Let's see what I can come up with. And there we go. See, so I didn't actually have to go back and go over it all over again. Since it's a new layer, that's it. And you can use as many clipping layers as you want. So I can do another layer, press clipping, and let's see. Let's go to purple and do this. See, it's still going to be the layer underneath everything. So you can use as many clipping layers as you want. It's easier to fix mistakes, and it's easier to change colors, and it's just overall the method that I tend to use the most. So those are the two different ways that I color in my line art. You know, I would very highly recommend that you do color your line art, you know, at least try it once, because it really does add a lot to your line art. A lot of people say to not have just black as your line art because it makes your picture look boring and flat. And I'm not sure if I have any authority to say that kind of stuff, but it definitely looks really nice when I color in my line art, and it's something that I get a lot of comments on, you know, I get a lot of attention for it. So that's really all I had to say on this topic. I'm going to very quickly color in this line art just to show you what it looks like and then compare it to what it would look like without the color. So just give me a second here. Alright guys, so I finished coloring the line art. Right now it's still all black so that you can see what it looks like before coloring the line art. And now this is what it's going to look like after coloring the line art. Boop. There it is. Very, some bright colors, especially down here and around the eyes. Let me do that again. Look at this. Notice the difference in colors. See, even though the colors themselves aren't very bright, once coloring the line art, it looks like a very colorful picture. This is again coloring a lot of it. I don't color all of it. The outsides I tend to leave black just because, I don't know, that's just kind of my art style that I've developed over a while. But I like to color the inner line art right here. And then also just remember that it doesn't have to be super boring. So right here, this is a good example right here. The line art here, you can see it's a little more purple here and then it kind of fades out. Feel free to use the airbrush tool or the pencil tool. I use the pencil a lot. Let me see, it's this layer right here. Let's go back to the pencil tool, which I have right now. And then, see? It doesn't have to be just like solid colors. It can be gradients. It can be airbrush tools. It can be some kind of texture. You know, have fun with it. Try out different things. Doesn't even need to be purple, for God's sake. Look at this. Look at that. Of course, I don't know if I would keep it like that just because it's a little extreme, but I tend to do that with eyes. So right here, his eyes, the upper liner of his eyes are pretty dark, but sometimes I like to just add a little bit of color just like that. Sometimes it's not even noticeable, but to me, it just makes a difference. Something else I wanted to point out is that sometimes colors won't work for every single situation, such as right here, his hair color. Go up a bit, there we go. Right here, I colored the line art to be kind of like an orangish yellow, kind of like a gold. But as you can see, the line art that actually interacts with his skin color is a darker brown, just because I didn't like how it looked if I was to keep that gold. So let me show you what that would look like if I did, oops, I'm gonna go back to the pen. If I had kept all of it that color, it would have looked like this, and it still works, but I personally just liked it as a darker brown instead. So that's what I did. So, you know, just figure out what looks best to you and then work on that. Well, thank you so much for watching. I hope it was okay that I did this. I know I talked about this before, but the questions about my line art and coloring line art was getting a bit overwhelming and I just kind of wanted to settle this. So anyways, thank you so much for watching. I do tutorials every Tuesday, or I try to at least, and I do speed paints every Saturday with some occasional impromptu speed paints in the middle. If you want to subscribe, that would be super cool. If you want to show your friends these videos, that would be super cool. Anything to help your fellow artists. Okay, bye!